5 misconceptions about EVs. The energy to charge the vehicles comes from fossil fuels. This couldn't be further from the truth. Electric vehicles simply just use electricity. That electricity doesn't necessarily has to come from fossil fuels. It can come from wind, geothermal, hydro, tidal, nuclear. You can get them from pretty much any electricity generating source. They don't necessarily have to come from fossil fuels. And a lot of people make the argument that electric vehicles are basically just coal power vehicles. Well, the reality of it is, even if an electric vehicle is 100% coal powered, then that would mean that the electric vehicle output much less CO2 than a comparable gas car. And the story completely changes if you simply just get solar panels on your roof that would offset the electricity used by your vehicle. You don't even have to do that. In most countries, renewables are getting to a point that they're taking over 50% of electricity generation. Just 5 years ago, this would have been a laughable number. The electricity grid is cleaning up, and probably within 10 years, it'll be primarily renewable. And that would mean your electric vehicle that you bought today will actually get cleaner over time as the grid gets cleaner. The batteries have to be mined, and it's bad for the environment. That's not entirely true. Most lithium mines for batteries, they're actually in places where there is no vegetation, no plant life, no animal life at all. It's basically a dry desert. And turns out only a small percentage of the battery is actually lithium. Most of it is just nickel, copper, aluminum, iron, magnesium, cobalt, a bunch of other stuff that we have readily available, and we have readily available supply chains to supply it. The only thing bad about batteries is that they contain cobalt, which is kind of an ethical issue. And right now, a lot of companies are working really hard to eliminate cobalt from their cells completely. Today, most electric vehicles only have about 1 to 2% of the battery's mass in cobalt. The rest is other stuff, and lithium only contains about 3 to 5% of the battery's mass. The rest of it is nickel, magnesium, and other elements that we have readily available here in the Earth's crust. And also, a lot of people don't take into account that in the future, in maybe 15, 20 years, when the batteries need to be recycled, what they can do is take out all those materials and just make a brand new battery out of it. You don't have to mine them again. Once they're mined, you can reuse them. Batteries only last 5 years, and they are very expensive to replace. This couldn't be further from the truth. Today, you can get a Model 3, and that battery will cost about $8,000. Just 10 years ago, that battery would have cost over $50,000. Battery costs are coming down like crazy, yet 10-year-old electric cars are still holding up their battery really well. Battery costs in the next 10 years are expected to drop over 80%. So that would mean you can buy that same battery for about $1,000. That's much cheaper than getting an engine replacement or an engine rebuild or a transmission replacement or anything like that. And guess what? That's going to be new battery technology, which means it'll be even more energy dense, it'll be even more efficient, it'll be just overall much better. And batteries, generally, they last a very, very long time. They're actually very resilient to any degradation, surprisingly. Even 10-year-old batteries today, they still hold up over 90% of their original capacity. So the batteries easily outlast the car by a long shot. You can use a car, run it to the ground for 25 years, and the battery will still be in pristine condition with only maybe 10-15% of degradation. You'll still have 85% of the battery available. And what will you do with that battery? You'll use it for grid storage. You just got a huge mass, it doesn't need to be transported anywhere, and now just plug it into the grid. It'll be used to balance the grid and everything, and you'll get a really, really cheap battery that you can use for grid storage. And once the battery degrades to a point that it's not worth it keeping it running anymore, you recycle the battery, make a brand new battery out of the material you extract. Whereas with gasoline, you have to constantly refine gasoline over and over and over, and you really can't rebuild it. Yes, you can actually take the shell of an internal combustion car, and you can actually use the engine as well to recycle it, but you still are using oil fundamentally, and that is going to run out eventually. No matter what, it will run out eventually, and that's going to cause a massive economic crisis if we don't do anything to divert from a non-sustainable source. They take too long to charge. Now, I understand where the idea of this actually comes into play. When most reviewers online, they actually talk about electric vehicles, they say it takes about 10 hours to charge from empty to full. The reality of it is you never charge from empty to full unless you're coming back from a road trip. So the idea that they take too long to charge doesn't really apply here, because they're relating it to like a gas vehicle where you actually have to hold the pump and stand there and be like, oh my gosh, I'm standing here for 8 hours, when in reality, it's not like that. You plug in your electric vehicle like your phone at nighttime and you just wake up with a full charge. It's pretty much what every electric vehicle owner does. Now, if you are on a road trip, and you might hear stories about some people saying, oh my gosh, it takes 4 hours to charge. That's not reality. Usually, most electric vehicles only need to charge for 20 minutes. So next time you go on a road trip, I challenge you, if you have a gas vehicle, measure the time that it takes for you to take a stop. I can guarantee you it'll be more than 15 minutes. I've measured it myself, and usually my average is about 20 to 25 minutes. So it's perfect for electric vehicles. You drive for 2 to 3 hours, you'd stop for 20 to 25 minutes anyways, get a restroom break, maybe grab something to eat, and then you're on your way, car is almost fully charged. This is one thing you have to experience yourself and maybe go on a road trip to actually realize, oh, I was just fussing over some random BS. EVs are expensive. Electric vehicles have come down in cost by a huge margin. Just 10 years ago, you could buy a $30,000 Nissan Leaf that would only go about 60 to 80 miles on a charge, but today that same Nissan Leaf for about $30,000, you can get a car, an electric vehicle that can easily do over 200 miles and have a good charging network. Toss in another 5 to 7 grand and you could get a standard range Model 3, has 263 miles of range and has the extensive supercharger network that can charge your vehicle pretty much in 15 minutes. And most people don't actually know that Teslas especially, they have come down in cost a lot. You can get the cheapest Tesla, which is only about $38,000 at the time of this recording. And there are many other electric vehicles that are coming out just this year, just later this year, that are actually going to be around the $40,000 price tag with over 200 miles of range. So really, EVs are coming down to a price point where they're pretty much becoming the price of a comparable gas car. Batteries are getting cheaper, the process is being streamlined, it's a new technology, prices are going to come down even more. And because the technology is very simple, eventually we're going to get to a point where actually electric vehicles are going to be much cheaper than gasoline vehicles. And here's what a lot of people forget. I'm going to take the example of a Model 3 right now. A Model 3 is more like your BMW. It's not like your Accord or your Camry, even though a lot of people trade in their Accord, Camry, Civics and stuff to get a Model 3, which is actually quite surprising. But the Model 3 is actually more like a BMW 3 Series competitor. But within about 5 years of ownership, the Model 3 actually becomes comparable to the price of a brand new Camry. And so now just imagine that if there's a new Biden administration rebate that comes out for $10,000, it'll be the same price as a Camry, but you'll still maintain all the savings of an electric vehicle. So not much spending on fuel, maintenance, or any other aspect like that. And so that would mean that would effectively be a brand new $15,000 equivalent gas car to a Model 3 at the time, especially if it's a $10,000 rebate. Now, you don't need this rebate and it's still comparable to a Camry, but if you just go on feature to feature basis, or you just simply drive a Camry and then you drive a Model 3 Standard Range Plus, they don't compare at all. The Model 3 compares to a BMW 3 Series. And today I'll actually argue that the Model 3, whatever it comes up with, because pretty much it's fully packed, it has autopilot and everything, it has more features and it's much better equipped than a comparably priced BMW 3 Series. So EVs today are already cheaper than their comparable gas counterparts. Now obviously they will get to a price point where pretty much everyone will have them, and soon enough they'll actually be coming in the used market as well. So 80% of the people actually do buy used cars. Only 20% buy brand new, fresh off the lot vehicles. The rest buy used cars. And so new EVs are coming in the used market and they're just going to infiltrate the market like crazy, and that would likely destroy the value of used gas vehicles. So maybe not a good time to buy a brand new gas vehicle. If you want, maybe lease one or something, I don't know. But that's minute 5 misconceptions of EVs, and I hope you learned something from it. Thank you for watching and I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.